Qool Hand Podcast, something you got to deal with. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host. My name is Q. We have a very special guest in the building today. And let me just, before I introduce you too much, and I like to ramble sometimes, guest, please introduce yourself.
Do I look over there?
You can look wherever you want.
Okay, first.
I'll tell you this. If you want to make a statement, a drop the mic moment, you'll want to look right into that camera there.
Okay.
But yeah.
I guess I'll just look over here. I'm Liz. My last name's Akam. I'm Windfall Vintage. I love all things old. And I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you, Liz, and Windfall Vintage is the name. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Get to know that name because we're about to be saying it a lot during this interview. And you mentioned your last name is Akam.
Yes.
If you are a podcast OG, a listener, somebody who might have even come around during the pandemic, I interviewed somebody named Ty Cam, whose name is Tyler Akam. And with that last name, you are always welcome at the Qool Hand Podcast. So are you a blood relation to Tyler?
My brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. If you are even an Akam by marriage, by extension, second cousin twice removed, you're good with me. I'll tell you that. So shout out to all the Akams worldwide.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Unless you're a criminal.
I don't know that any of them are criminals. I don't know. You know, I guess there could be. But.
You stole an Akam's heart.
Oh,
there you
yeah.
go. There you go. That works.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm the criminal.
Yeah. But criminal of love, I guess. I don't know. Let me just cut myself off before I just talk myself into a hole. So, Liz, thank you for being on the Qool Hand Podcast. Now, you said you love all things old, and we're going to talk about that today, but you have come a little ways to be here, and you're not here just for the Qool Hand Podcast in this area. You have a lot going on with your business. So before we get into all things old and maybe selling all things old and maybe events that you host or places that you sell things, where are you from? Where are you coming from?
Well, originally I grew up a little bit south of Erie, PA.
Okay.
But I actually live in Oil City, small town, birth of oil, like the oil boom, old money kind of area. Small town though now. So it's cute and quaint.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't know that. Thank you for saying that. I am aware of Oil City. I've been there a couple times, but I did not know that is why it was named Oil City.
Yeah.
So the birth of the oil boom.
Yeah. So there's like 3 small towns, actually, Titusville, Oil City, and Franklin area. They all were built up. There is a guy named Edwin Drake that discovered the first oil thing. Now I can't think of the name. But anyway, he started drilling oil, and that was in that area, and that was like a huge draw in like the Victorian era.
Interesting. So we're getting some, historian facts on the Qool Hand Podcast today, and I always love to learn something new. So Oil City, and you were raised outside of Erie, correct, or a little near that?
Yeah, like a little south of it, still in the country though.
Okay, so tell us about your upbringing. What was life like? Because, being over here in the Pittsburgh area, Erie's about a couple hours away, so we're not there too often. So what was life like growing up over there?
Well, I live basically, some would call it a small farm. My parents had lots of animals. We raised animals. They loved antiques, so that'll probably come up later. But we just did a lot outside. Actually, closer to like where I'm at is Cambridge Springs. It's another old town. There was a bunch of old Victorian hotels there. There was like a resort for people in the Victorian era. So I grew up in a really cool, like super country, not a lot to do. So we would drive around to these cool places, old places, and tour old homes. And so it was, I don't know, just like a very country type of laid back upbringing.
Did you guys have animals?
Oh, lots of animals.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom is a animal lover. So we had horses. We had she had a potbelly pig. I had llamas. We had a parrot. Yeah.
You had llamas?
Yeah. Yeah. We had llamas. And what else? Like sheep and goats. And like she was very much like, since I was homeschooled, so it was something that she was just trying to expose us to the beauty of creation, and she's much an animal lover, and kind of just something that was precious to her, and she wanted to share it with her kids. My dad is too, but not as much as my mom.
Thank you for sharing. That's pretty cool. I don't think we've had people who come from like a farmland background, but I don't think I've had anybody on the podcast who has owned llamas and parrots. So that is pretty cool. What's one of your fondest childhood farm-like area memories?
That's a good question. I don't know. My llama, his name was Rudy. I loved him. He was sweet. Like, he didn't like anybody else, but he liked me. And I'm trying to think of a specific thing. Like, I just loved having friends over, and like we would go visit the miniature horses down at our barn, and like specifically, I can't think of one instance, but it was just cool seeing creation in different ways and getting to feel that kind of a conditional love that is like between people have that, but it's like animals are a comfort. It's like I have anxiety, so they were always like a comforting thing, having animals.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Animals, not that they don't talk back, but I understand the source of comfort there. And that's pretty cool, just being exposed to, the non-traditional domesticated cats and dogs that are most common today. So that's pretty neat. One more question, because this intrigues me.
Sure.
Now, how little were you when you had Rudy? Like,
I was probably I was probably like 10. He lived quite a long time, so I was probably like 10 or 11-ish. And then he was around for a long time. So probably I was like 20-ish, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let me cut to the chase here. Did you ride the llama?
No.
Okay.
I did not. Though I have rode a camel before, I've not rode a llama.
Okay, I'm like, my first thought is like, if you're, small enough, young enough, you might be tempted to get on the llama.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that though.
Okay, that's pretty cool. But you still were able to ride a camel. And did you ride the horses?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We did. I had like lessons, and that was my first animal I remember having. Mine was like a pony, and I would have him. We'd ride sometimes, and then I haven't for a really long time though.
Yeah.
So something that I still kind of want to do every so often. Yeah. I haven't done it in a while.
How easy or difficult would it be to like get back into horseback riding? Is it like riding a bike, or is there a lot of different caveats to it that you might run into?
I think probably once you get your bearings again, it would be okay. It would depend on the horse too. So much personality between one horse and another horse. But I think it wouldn't be that bad. It would take me a little bit, but I don't think it would take me that much to get into it again.
Okay. Well, thank you for the childhood debriefing. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, a lot of tours, house tours. Did you say it was your mother who liked the old things as well, the antiquing? And
both my parents.
both?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a strong background of antiquing. So I would imagine that shapes what you do now.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I do now is very much pulls from that.
Okay. And Windfall Vintage, it's kind of in the name, but what all do you do with Windfall Vintage?
So I mainly do women's fashion, women's vintage clothing. I dabble a little bit in hard goods, like decor here and there, but mostly it is women's fashion. And I used to be more like bigger furniture things, but this seems to be where my niche is, where my fit is. I like styling, I like seeing the sustainability of a piece not getting thrown away. Even though it's like, I know I can't solve that problem on my own, I feel like I've always appreciated reusing something from my parents showing me that. So I get to involve that in Windfall Vintage.
I can appreciate that for sure. So doing women's fashion, some hard goods, I want to talk about the fashion first. Because as you can see, we have two cameras, at least two cameras. We have one on both of us, one on you. You see that you're all dolled up. You got your necklace on, your sweater on. I'm not sure if that camera's picking up the skirt, but everything's looking real solid. Nowadays you buy something. Oh, absolutely. Nowadays you buy stuff. If you go to the mall, a lot of people don't shop at the mall anymore. Because you buy something from like a fast fashion store, even if you like it, you may put it in the washer and dryer one time. It shrinks, rips. You might have like a crinkled neck on a t-shirt.
Exactly.
It's just not sustainable. So it looks like you're wearing things that are not fast fashion items, things that have the sustainability.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So were you always into fashion?
Yes and no. Like, I think growing up, I grew up in like Nowheresville, basically. So it's like my mom would thrift sometimes, but like we would get things from Walmart or secondhand or like a lot of hand-me-downs. And grew up with a lot of friends who like, oh, we have this thing, it doesn't fit our kids anymore, so they pass it down. And so I didn't really like start leaning into the fashion stuff. So a little bit older, I regret that in some ways because now Y2K and late 90s have come back so hard. And there's one specific shirt that I'm like, man, why did I get rid of that? And it might still be at my parents' house somewhere, but I think about that and like, oh, I should have kept that. But I kind of grew into it, to answer your question, like a little bit more. And I was a mall shopper for a while because I was like, finally, I'm like, oh, I have my own car.
Yes.
Like, and nothing against my parents and like the way they provided clothing for me, but it's just like, oh, I have my own money, I have my own car. I'm gonna go to the mall now, and I'm gonna get stuff from Rue 21 and all of the mall places, and which like now, of course, is everybody's like, ooh, Rue 21, sadly, but it's then I started coming into the vintage more of like, this is really cool. Like I saw the mall stuff. It felt like cookie cutter and you can make it unique, but I just started finding more of myself in thrifted things and things that, were secondhand. I kind of came back to that and appreciated that, what my parents did for me in the secondhand nature. And it kind of developed into putting different things together and trying to mix and match, and the quality too. Like you said, the quality is way better.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of people, when you're young and you get some money, it's like, I can buy what I want. I can buy this shirt, I can buy that. And as young people, we're not thinking about quality over quantity. We're thinking, I got my own money.
Yeah.
I'm going to get what I want finally. Yeah. So we all go through it and have gone through it. And there's a 10-year-old right now who's going to turn 16 one day and buy whatever.
That's my nephew.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to buy whatever he wants. So it is what it is. So, and that's understandable too, with growing into fashion rather, not being exposed to as much. If you're only seeing like Walmart and then getting the secondhand clothes. I don't know. I'm not going to ask you your age, but I feel like we're around the same age, and social media was not a big thing when I was young. Like there was no social media. There was like MySpace.
Yeah.
Then you had to have like a computer and internet.
Yep.
And these things were not as, I don't want to say affordable because it's still expensive these days, but it just wasn't common there were no influencers or anything.
No. I mean, though, like MySpace, I didn't really have a MySpace because I wasn't allowed. My mom was like, no, I don't think so. Though I did get Facebook eventually, which I think everybody kind of did eventually. But like, I kind of wanted MySpace because it was like, ooh, the cool bands are on there, and like all the cool music is there. And like, I guess I should mention too, like I did like more of the alternative emo stuff. So I couldn't necessarily always dress that way again because my mom's like, no, that looks goth. Please don't do that. Mm-hmm. So, which I wasn't going for that. And that's not bad because black is a beautiful color. Not even a color. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point, but
please
anyway.
ramble.
But yeah, I wanted MySpace, but I wasn't necessarily allowed to have it.
Yeah. MySpace was one of those things that either parents, it's like whatever or no.
Yeah.
So, okay, gotcha. So, that's interesting too. We can kind of touch on how music shapes style as well. So, as you get older, you're getting into, you're finding your style, like you said. And what do you feel like when you say like your style kind of molded or you found it within vintage clothing? Who is that? Who is the person you found in that style of clothing or getting the vintage wear? What did you find? Like not who are you, but who are you?
That's a loaded question. I guess you told me you were going to ask loaded questions, but I found a comfortability, and like I didn't like being put into a box. Like there was people I grew up with. They're like, oh, we live in this area. We're country people. We wear flannel. We drive big trucks. That's our area. Just accept it. It's like, I don't like that box. And then as I got older, it was just like, I can wear whatever I want, but I can make it unique. There's like one of this thing.
Yeah.
And like, it's still modest. It's still, I can make it myself, but I felt like it was a good reflection of like, I can find a piece I can't find anywhere else. It's me. And it's within the parameters of like what I feel modest and respectful, and it still looks good. So like I can have both things.
Absolutely. We have a studio audience, and shout out to Emily. And she's like shaking her head like, yes. So Emily's feeling where you're coming from. So 2 thumbs up. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that actually. So moving on to selling, because there's one thing to be someone who appreciates things, but what made you want to possibly start selling antique items or vintage clothing?
Well, actually, I worked in an antique store for a while. I was there shortly before pandemic, like a couple years before pandemic, and like I saw this cool stuff, and then I was just like, I can do this. And it kind of was like I collected things, but also there's things that I one, don't have a space for. 2, like, why should I keep this to myself when someone else can enjoy this? And it goes back to the sustainability thing. It's like people are throwing out things so much. It's piling up. Why not give it a second life? If I'm finding it and it's cool and I can't keep it, let it go out to someone else that can enjoy it, and maybe it'll have a 3rd or 4th life.
Yeah. That is pretty cool. I can appreciate that. I like that. You may the wanting or the desire to give to people. You might see a nice shirt and say, you know, this isn't my size, or this is too big or too small. Let me give it to somebody else or sell it to someone else who can also appreciate it. That's pretty cool. So what year did you decide to start selling? So you were working in the antique shop before pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
But the decision to start selling things came when?
I would say like 2016-ish, 2017-ish is when I kind of started dabbling in it, because I had like a booth there.
Okay.
And it didn't really work well for me because my vibe didn't really match the customer base of the area, which is okay. Everywhere is different. But then I tried doing Etsy, and I was like, oh, this is a cool hobby. Like, it was definitely a needed income, like a second stream of income. I could go out and find things or be at the antique store. I'm like, I could probably flip this. And, you know, one, somebody else is enjoying it too. It was like, this is benefiting my income and my husband's income. And some months it was like, this paid our rent, like, or helped pay our rent.
Yeah. Like,
not fully paid, but it's like, it's that little bit of extra that was there. So it was kind of like, okay. And so it kind of was just a hobby, but then it became more through like post-pandemic.
Yeah. Gotta respect it. Gotta respect the hustle. I love the hustlers on the podcast and making something out of a hobby. So you had the booth. You find that flipping things, finding things and selling them, that Etsy was working for you. What came next?
Well, pandemic, like I dabbled in, of course, like doing some stuff, finding stuff. And when lockdown hit, like I'm sure it's just a shared experience of the world coming to a complete stop. It's like, okay, where's your, before you knew that there was going to be unemployment or anything, you're like, okay, where's my money going to come from? Like, I have also hope that, like, I know certain things are going to be taken care of, because that's something that my parents instilled, very like strong belief in God and taking care of us, not worrying too much about it. So we knew that it would work, but it's like pandemic offered, I'm at home now, so I can take pictures of things that are at my house that I collected to take to my booth. And that's what I did. I took pictures. Like, of course, I was like looking back at them. I'm like, oh man, the quality of this is terrible. But you're just like, I'm getting these out, like, just to hopefully bring in some money. And people were at home online shopping, so why not? That's kind of how it became more of that's what came next. Like, then I went back to work and still did that on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Even in the pandemic, which at the beginning of it, I guess throughout the whole pandemic, like, it was just so uncertain. You didn't know what was going to come next.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the whole thing, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. I remember there was a certain point where, like, I was so unsure about COVID. There were so many questions about it. It was like, if you walk past somebody with COVID, can you get it?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Something like that. And I was, I'm in the healthcare field. And at the time I was working in a hospital. I'm like, dude, what is going
stressful.
on? So yeah, uncertain times, but even in those uncertain times, you kept moving.
Yeah.
You kept moving. And I would imagine what you did then was a stepping stone to where you're at now.
Yeah.
So the pandemic is now over. You were taking pictures. People are online shopping. You're having some business. So once that's over and people are starting to return to normal life, in air quotes, what happened next?
Well, Close friend of mine, her name's Emily French. She's actually goes by Love Emmy Dot on Instagram. Shout out to Love Emmy Dot. We got closer over pandemic, and she also did Etsy, but she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna look into doing in-person markets." And it was still like we're coming out of COVID. We're like, it's just those months of like this transition period of like, do I do this? Am I taking a risk? Like, but you're also like excited to go back into or go into this new realm of whatever life is. And so she's like, maybe we could do this, not to like kind of together. So we kind of encouraged each other and signed up for some things. And we did like a small hometown one, which didn't turn out good. Because again, my demographics, like, oh, they're like, oh, old clothes. But so that was the next step, was in-person markets and doing a handful and kind of discovering this love of seeing people, like I see it online of like, oh, I love this. Thank you for sharing it. But the in-person, when someone's like, this thing is so unique, like, I love this. I don't have time to go thrifting. I don't have time to look for my own. They go to an event like specifically to find special things. And it's like to be the person to find that and to share that. And then someone's appreciating, in some ways, I feel like my art. It's like I've always loved art, but I feel like this is an art form. So to see someone react to it and love it and then give it a new home, like I got that bug of in-person markets, and that was that next thing.
100%. And I definitely want to talk about what goes into finding pieces, because like you said, it is, I agree with you that it is an art. Because a handful of vintage sellers can walk into the same pile of clothes and find something different that may fit what they want to sell and who they want to sell to. Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about that a little bit later. So you and Love Emmy Dot are doing your thing. Small town things. I would imagine you did more other little pop-ups.
Yeah, I did more pop-ups. Like I did the small town thing. Of course, she living in Pittsburgh, like did a couple like small coffee shops, and she also makes handmade candles. And so she was doing a little bit more of the Pittsburgh thing. So I'm like, you know what? I wonder if I'll have success there, because seeing kind of not a totally negative reaction in my area, but just a different viewpoint. They're more antiquers. They're more like the furniture and that kind of side of it. So I'm like, well, the city, like people love fashion here. Like not, they don't at home, but again, as I ramble, so yeah, she kind of introduced me to the area down here and to people, and started doing markets and just kind of networking. And yeah, I think I lost my train of like there. Sorry.
No, you're no need to apologize. You're telling your story. So you got around within the city, started networking with Emily. So and that brings you now. Did that bring you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So she, I met people with her basically, and then there's a couple shows that I did that were different. We can't always be at the same one. But she is in Bohem Shops. So she does her home goods and homewares there. And basically, she was like, you would be a perfect fit. Your aesthetic is different than other people's. Like, you have a niche. So she kind of introduced me to that aspect of having a booth there. So yeah, she was a big help. So shout out to Emily.
Big shout out. So Bohem Shops.
Yes.
I've yet to come down there. Now, all things considered, I'm about 40 minutes from Lawrenceville, which is in Pittsburgh. I'm not going to disclose my location, but every time Kayla and I have moved apartments, we have moved further and further away from the city. And now everything is like things that used to be 20 minutes are now 40. And so haven't been down to Grace Lawrenceville in a while, but it is located in Lawrenceville, right? Mm-hmm. And tell us about Bohm Shops. Give them a little plug. What do they offer?
Well, there's a bunch of different things there. On the vendor side of the vintage, there's you could basically find any style that you're looking for. If you're looking for someone who does sportswear, there's, and just specifically Steelers stuff, there's people that just Pittsburgh-ese everything. There's people that just do denim. There's people who they have both, men's and women's, like more funky patterns. And I'm more, I like to say whimsical. I deal with a lot of 90s and like dark florals, and there's people with more like a cottagecore aesthetic. So it's kind of like a something for everyone. And then there's Emily with home goods. There's other artisans there too. Very unique, different things. And there's candles and kind of like a bit of everything.
Yeah, that's a fact. They got a little bit of everything. It seems like they're like getting a new person in the store with a booth, like every day. So like I feel like there's like limitless fashion choices or pieces that you can find there.
Yeah.
So what was the process like getting into this shop?
Well, I talked to Emily about it. There was a girl that had left, actually opened her own shop. And so an opening came up. I applied, and I was hoping to get in faster than what I did. But I was a little bit on a waiting list, which was fine, actually it's a good thing because the owner there is good at filling us like a spot, like waiting for the perfect person to kind of, okay, well, we need this. So she'll look through who's on her waiting list and kind of fill in a spot based on what that person's selling or even their aesthetic. So I waited like 8 months, and then I got like a call. Emily kind of was like, well, you might, don't give up on it. Cause I was just like, maybe it's not, maybe I just, maybe it's not a good fit for me. And she's like, no, don't give up. Cause she had a little bit of insider information, but which was, I appreciated that she was like, don't give up. She didn't give it away, but she wanted me to just keep pursuing it and waiting. So about a month later, I got a phone call from the owner. Her name's Sarah, and she was like, I feel like you'd be a good fit. So that process started in January of this year, and now we're here in November. So I've been there 10 full months.
Congratulations. Clap it up, everybody. Yeah. That wasn't a command. The studio audience, we have a second person in the studio audience now. Shout out to my wife, Kayla. But congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the things that we can find from Windfall Vintage, because you fill a specific need, right? You mentioned 90s core, dark floral. And I would imagine what you're wearing is kind of like a sample of the things that you can find at your shop. So what all do you offer in terms of the style of clothing? Give us some more examples.
So the dark floral, I think, is like a good, I'm losing my mind. Sorry. A good example. So I pull from a lot of dark colors, a lot of reds, blacks. Basically how the 90s like had that minimalist dark color era. And then I love texture. So if it's got a velvety feel or a lace feel or anything like that, I offer a lot of things that have a lot of texture to them, but they still have that, 90s aesthetic, or they can go on a whimsical side. I love sparkly things too. So I like mixing the two. So you have like this more fantasy side of things. And then you have the like minimalism, and I feel like they meet in a really nice way. And then I sprinkle some like Harley Davidson teas in there, some like other teas in there, not too much, but like I really like a cool juxtaposition of like not masculine and feminine, but like a harder, like more, I don't know, hard, I can't think of the word. But I like texture mixtures is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Huh? Edgy. Yes, thank you,
Here we
studio
go.
audience. Thank you. The word edgy.
We got crowd participation.
Yes.
You know, this is a group effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little bit of an edgier vibe sometimes. And you know what? That's pretty good. I want to chime in there because a lot of vintage markets cater to mainly the t-shirts, you know, because that's a big thing. The young people love it, and not just young people in general love the vintage look. There are even companies that I'm aware of, companies that I buy from, that they make vintage style shirts because the vintage t-shirts, the vintage graphic t-shirts from the 90s are just so popular that, you know, they kind of get repurposed into, you know, 2024 fashion.
Yeah. So
you offering the texture like things, because, you know, I would imagine some people are like, okay, graphic t-shirt, what about this?
Yeah.
And you may be able to fill that void for them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty nice. Now, finding these things, this is what I've been wanting to ask, you know, the vintage, the folks in the vintage game for a while. So I'm glad you're here. How do you find stuff? Because I follow accounts on Instagram, and some people they'll post a picture of like some big pile as if it was like garbage piled up, but instead of garbage, it's just clothes. Like, where are these people finding? Is there like some like secret dungeon of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Take me through the finding and scouting process.
Oh, everybody seems to have their own way. Me, I thrift a lot at like local Goodwills, and there's a cute little Humane Society thrift shop like that I visit quite frequently, and so I get a lot of things there. Some people go to the Goodwill outlets or the bins, and which if I'm closer in the area, I will go, but that's piles of just bins, and they sort through. Some people just stay all day and they're sourcing and they're looking, because all these things that go to Goodwill end up at these bins, and then they end up either on a ship to another country in a pile or in a landfill somewhere. So that's like their spot they go before landfill. So some people just stay there all day and just sort through, and other people do estate sales. I personally haven't gotten in the estate sale game. It's a little bit hard in my area to get into because people have like a if you know kind of deal.
Yeah. Some politics.
There is politics. I've been told to stay away from some places by other people, and it's just like, okay, no, I'm not gonna disrespect your game.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
It's which is funny because it's like I'm a totally different style than they are. So I'm like, yeah, well, things that you find may be different than things I appreciate.
Yeah.
So, but I will say something about in the sourcing side in the Pittsburgh community. The vintage community here is amazing. Like, even though I don't live here, I still work and source around here sometimes. People are like, oh, you're looking for this thing? Go here. Or I find this thing. I don't need it for my shop, but it's here.
Yeah.
And it's like a vice versa thing. Maybe I find t-shirts and I'm like, I don't have a need for this. I just shoot a message to, a different seller and just like, I know this is your style. So like like that. Or for myself, my husband and I work house clean outs. So we do, not all the time do I help, but sometimes I get called to help, and we clean out just foreclosed homes or abandoned homes. And basically I found some really good pieces there. Just someone had passed or someone just left their house and their stuff's still there. So you got to get rid of it. Either you throw it away or you take it.
Yeah.
It's just like it doesn't matter where it goes. It's just like it has to get out of there. So I found some pieces that way, and it's like that's cool because it also adds to the charm of the story of like this is getting its second life, but also I saved it from literally going to the landfill. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you for filling us in on that. And it's nice that you have the attitude of helping others. If something doesn't work for you, you could toss somebody the alley-oop. And this is what I don't like about people right now. And I'm going to look at the camera. Where's my camera? Because people are telling you to stay away from different spots. I don't like that. And it's all in like the name of competition, or I want to be on top. You know, that's just not cool. If you need some muscle one day to
I'll make sure to text you.
To go to wherever they told you not to go, we will go, and we will go against the grain. Not on any tough stuff.
Yeah.
But you ain't going to tell us if it's an open area. And this is on the Qool Hand Podcast. She ain't saying it. I'm saying it. This is all me. Blame me. But I don't like that. Because you're going to have, that's the thing. Like, you don't burn a bridge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come. Like, you just can't be on top. You can't be number one. What comes up must come down.
Yeah. And I feel like revisiting the thought of not everybody has the same style. It's like, I've seen it happen where people are like just squirreling away things. And it's like, oh, well, what happens when you can't sell this? Or, yeah, it's kind of selfish to think about that people don't want to share. Because I'm like, there's so much of it.
Yeah.
And in the end, like a friend of mine, she said, we're just selling other people's garbage. Yeah. Basically, in some ways, not in every ways, like other people's trash is a treasure to someone else. But like in the fact someone gave this away or someone left this. So why should we sit there and like just add to the pile?
Yeah.
When, we're not going to save everything, but we could throw it someone else's way and say, hey, this is your niche. This is your style. Doesn't work for me, but maybe for you.
Yeah. The word of this evening is hater stuff. That's 2 words, but that's some real hater stuff. Whoever that is, they're probably not going to see this. Watch it be somebody I buy from, but
I don't think so.
Okay, good. That's some real.
I don't think so. Like I said, the Pittsburgh community, like vintage community, is amazing. Like it's been no one around here.
Got you. All right. Stop doing that hater stuff. So thank you for filling us in on that. And you did mention at a certain time you were doing large furniture items, and you do still sell some like hard things. So I'm just kind of putting 2 and 2 together. Did the furniture aspect, when you were still finding your market, did that come from your beginnings, from your hometown, because that's more what they were into?
Yeah. Yeah. Like our hometown area is more like the antique, into like the few years ago, the painted furniture thing, like the whole, this is very farmhousey, like that is still very much our area, my area. And no shade to farmhouse, because some people love it and like style it beautifully, but that was a lot of what people were looking for. So my husband actually started like, hey, we're mid-pandemic, like I'm at home, I'm gonna start painting furniture. He's actually very good at it. But then when work started up again, he's like, I don't have time for this. And stuff sat in our storage area, and that kind of it became harder, because it's like, oh, well, then you have to arrange delivery, or you have to have somebody come pick it up, and in being in the country, it's a little bit more orchestrated than it's like, or in a smaller town.
Yeah.
I really don't want people knowing where I'm at. So I'm not a Facebook marketplace of like, hey, come get this on my porch person.
Right.
Some people are comfortable with that. I'm not.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit more of a deterrent too, of like why the furniture kind of went to the back seat.
Very much understandable. Very much. And how about some of the items that you sell today? Like, do you have like, fine china, or what do you offer of the hard items?
On the hard items, like I do more like brass. I'm like, I do very few things. Like I'll do books more than anything because I feel like they're the easiest to ship. And I was doing glassware, but then I had something break and I had a customer that was upset, and I didn't have another one to give her. So it's like shipping glass made me very, very nervous. So I'm just like, okay, I'll stick with something that's small, like brass doesn't break and books don't break. So if I ship anything hard goods, it's usually that, because glass just scares me now.
Yeah. yeah. Brings some anxiety there.
Yeah.
You're in town, we mentioned before. You're not just here for the Qool Hand Podcast. I'm not that special, y'all. So what's going on this weekend? And by the time this comes out, this event would have passed. But what are you here for?
I'm here for the Pittsburgh Vintage Mixer.
And what is this Pittsburgh Vintage Mixer? These are all foreign words to me.
So it's actually Pittsburgh's biggest vintage event. This is their 17th season. I think they've been doing it for 9 years. They would do like mini shows and then they do a big show. But this is like their biggest show ever. Wow. And they have like around 100 different vendors, different styles. There's people that have come in and literally set up furniture as like a living room. So yeah, this is like Pittsburgh's biggest vintage event.
And Windfall Vintage will be there. So by the time this comes out, you missed it already if you weren't there. But hopefully you'll be a part of it next year. And if not, you can still shop on Etsy, right?
Yeah.
And boom, go over to Lawrenceville. So you can your chance is not all the way up.
Yeah.
So hopefully I get a chance to stop by at the mixer tomorrow and see how big this is. I did look at a list of all the vendors, and she ain't lying. It is a long list of vendors. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. So looking to the future, where do you see Windfall Vintage going? What are your upcoming goals, projects? Where are you going with this?
Well, I'm kind of appreciative of where it's going. Right now is where it's at. I kind of hope to just stay status quo. Maybe someday I'd like to like give up the cleaning jobs that I have. Like they're my bread and butter money. Like I need to pay my bills kind of thing. But it'd be nice to like not have that. But if I do, I do. I'm also just happy with what I have. I'd like it to still just keep going in a good direction. And projects wise, I started doing some upcycled pieces, embroidering some pieces, hand dyeing some pieces, things that may have had stains or rips or anything. I've been trying to be a little bit more creative and adding my own flair to some things. So I'd like to keep pursuing that in mixing with my vintage. And then I have a few shows on the radar that I've applied for. There's one in January called Totally Rad I hope to be at. They're like an amazing show too, very big. So just kind of going about and like enjoying whatever show comes down the road, like, and appreciating the fact that it's been a blessing. Like sometimes gotten my husband and I through some rough issues. So I've appreciated what it is and hope it just stays steady.
before we conclude all the way, I just want to talk about the pros and cons. So you can start with either or, but what are the pros of having your business and the whole vintage market, and some of the cons? I think we got some ideas, but just to hear it from you yourself.
Okay. Pros, like, it's very flexible. I can usually sneak a sourcing couple hours in between when I'm like, I go to a cleaning job, stop and do some sourcing, then go to my next cleaning job. I can kind of move things around that way. And it's a creative outlet pro. Like, it feels like an art. I feel like that energy can be expelled that way. I can put things together and enjoy other people's joy from finding it. So that's a huge pro. And then sometimes, like I said, it's been the money when we needed it. So, looking at it, not just from the financial, it's like just the positive of like, thank you. The cons of sometimes you're like, okay, I gotta drive. Because being in Bohem, like, you do work 2 days a month there. Sometimes it's not. I have anxiety, so sometimes I get anxious about driving. I've had accidents in the past, so sometimes I'm like, today just does not feel like a good day to be driving. So that's a downside, but it also, teaches me like I need to get outside my comfort zone. Sometimes you're just like, this thing is not sailing. Why? And you have things sitting in your basement, and your husband's like, why is this here still? Like, there's so much stuff in our basement. This is driving me crazy. He's a very like organized, clean person. So he's just like anti-clutter. Yeah. So for me, and my brain works differently. I'm like in a creative process. Clutter's not as bothersome. He's different. So that's a con sometimes, but we both have grown a little bit now. He's seeing me try to like come to a different process. It's getting a little bit better, but I'd say that's a con. Trying to think of anything else. Sometimes being in the public, like working, there's sometimes negativity, like we talked about, with people just saying, no, you can't do this, or don't do this. This looks wrong on you. Don't wear this. Like, you shouldn't wear this for your body shape, and not that that's bad, because I'm very much into wearing things that complement you and your body shape. But sometimes people can be mean about how people style things. And that can get to you sometimes. And just them telling you like, this is dumb. It's not a real job.
you got people. You got people with the fortitude to tell you these things to your face.
Yeah, I have. But also, you're just like you mentioned before. You got like this. At least when people are like, this isn't a real job, it gives me like, oh no, it is a real job. Like, then some of my friends are like, oh, it is a lot of work. Like, I do respect you. Like, I just don't. And I mean, he's one of my best friends. It was like, he didn't quite understand what went into it. And then once he saw the world of it, he's like, oh, this is work. Because it's like, oh, you just go and you play dress up.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's like, no. So I guess I was a really long-winded answer. But
No.
Went long-winded answers.
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning that, who has the unmitigated gall and fortitude to tell you, or anybody, well, some people are out here wilding. We're not talking about those people who are just like wearing the craziest outfits that things are being shown that should not be shown in the public. Who's talking about, you shouldn't wear this for your body type? Huh? Why don't you mind your business? Yeah, we got a problem. Y'all gotta, I hope y'all are watching this. Y'all gotta chill out, bro. Y'all can't be telling people, because now I'm gonna pick apart something when I see you wearing something.
No, like
I'm gonna pick it to shreds.
Try to show human kindness to them and just be like, okay, I'm just not going to interact with you either. Like, I respect you and I can treat you like a human, but I'm not going to tell you that I will. Yeah.
It's like, sometimes it's kind of like you have some nerve. But another some positive words for the day are forgiveness.
Yeah.
We I guess it takes some forgiveness when you have people sharing. Opinions are opinions, but there are some things that just don't need to be said if they're not for upbuilding.
Right.
Put it that way. Yeah. So interesting. Thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry you have to deal with that, because it seems unwarranted just from knowing you and talking to you.
Well, it's like it's too an overarching, just not even hearing it myself. It's having other people say to other people, like you seeing it happen in front of your face, like an older person saying to a younger person, well, that was like, I used to wear that, like you shouldn't wear that because like now it's old, like it makes me feel old. It's like conversations like that you're just like, let someone wear it if they want to. Like they're enjoying the same fashion that you did, so you should be happy, right?
Right.
So I mean, I don't know, like, and the person that one time said that to me, like, I don't see her ever unless like I run into her at Walmart, but it's like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It is what it is, y'all. It is what it is. My last question. How did you fall on the name Windfall Vintage?
Well, I used to live on a road named Windfall. And that's kind of my husband and I's first apartment, where we spent the first 8 years of our marriage together. So that's kind of where it happened. And I thought of other names, but I don't know, it just felt right. Mm-hmm. So it falls into my whimsy. I like the whole, like it ties in with everything. I like it.
Yeah. I like it too. When you first said it was a street that you lived on, I'm like, that has to have like some significance. Then the 8 years with your husband there, the first 8 years of your marriage. So that's nice. Yeah. It's sweet. I love it. I think the studio audience loves it. Your customers love it. The people at the mixer are gonna love it.
Hope so.
and that's it for me. Do you have any closing statements? Anything that I missed? Something you wanted to say, express? Any shout outs? Anything?
Well, just thank you for having me on the podcast. It's really cool. You've had some cool people, talented people, artistic. So it's cool to be among those people. So thank you. It's just cool to talk about this kind of thing with other people that appreciate it and like that it is an art form. So I'm really thankful to like talk about it. And yeah,
I'm thankful for having you on here. So Liz, we got Emily in the building. We got Kayla in the building. Thank everybody for being here, because everybody here played a part, whether you know it or not. Thank you for watching. This is the Qool Hand Podcast, something you got to deal with, and stop doing all that hater stuff. Y'all got to chill out. That's it. And there you go. Easy.